All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to April's Patternfly community meeting. We don't have a latest release to kind of highlight and walk through together since the team has been pretty much heads down on working towards our next major release. But we do have a few topics to talk about today and might even have some time at the end for some other questions or discussion if people have anything they want to talk about. But yeah, so we'll jump into it. First up is just the content of the slide is the same as the last community meeting. Some of these links have updated just a little bit because we're still working like all hands on deck on the version 5 of Patternfly, the major release, still scheduled for release in June. We've conducted 2 rounds of alpha testing so far, and they've gone pretty well. And we're hoping to conduct a 3rd round of alpha testing in the next handful of weeks before we have a release candidate that will also begin extensively testing and partnering with products to pull in and make sure it's working and the migration process is smooth. But if anyone has any questions about that, we probably will have more time to dig into its status at the end if we want. Just know that it's ongoing and been pretty rigorously tested and it's going well. So there are some links for more information on the slide if you're curious. And that's the only update I have community-wide today. So next up is some information about Patternfly GitHub Discussions. And I'll offer, Andrew, would you like to grab control of the slides or do you want me to keep going?
You can keep going. It's only 2. Thanks.
Okay. Well, then take it away.
All right. So we were talking in the Patternfly team about using GitHub Discussions a bit more. We can leverage this tool as part of our repos to manage some incoming feature requests. So it is a pretty good forum where you can openly ask questions and anyone in the community can either respond or the Patternfly team directly can respond to issues. And we can also have upvoting of like common topics that could potentially make their way into as a feature or an extension or other kind of means of being part of Patternfly. And that's just a screenshot of our discussion board. Next slide, please. So there's kind of 2 avenues that we can go in. We can file issues and start discussions. The issues really would be more geared towards if it's something that's maybe critical or breaking, React code isn't working, or if something isn't meeting accessibility standards. Those are 2 examples. If we want to start discussions that can be potentially new feature requests that we just want to shop around with the community and see if anyone else is interested in that work. Anyone in the community can contribute to Patternfly as well. It doesn't have to be the Patternfly team directly. If you want to propose a new extension or just ask general questions about some of our components and how to use them, all those things can be done with discussions. And as always, you can use our Slack channel. We'll answer questions there, but we're just trying to push more on the discussion space, especially with the voting feature to help our prioritization of our roadmap. So anything that's currently in the discussion board, we will be doing more to advocate for the use of discussions moving forward. So we'll see things like office hour meetings, design shares. We'll do more promotion and monitoring of the discussion space and encourage our community to also use it moving forward. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome, thanks. And with that being said, one thing that we might do during some of these community meetings is pull up the discussion board. Like I just pulled it up here from the link in the slides and talk through some of the more recent feature requests, or at least make you aware of them so that if anything catches your eye or if there's anything in here that you would endorse or even be excited to use in product, if you see it there, you'll have an opportunity to see them and your attention can be directed here during these meetings in the future. I don't have anything planned today to go through what's in here right now, but there are quite a handful of features that have been requested over the past few months. So if you have some time and want to just browse this list, you might find some interesting ideas in here that maybe you hadn't thought about in a while, or you already knew have been brainstormed on your product and you want to endorse. That'd be great. So we'll be monitoring those discussions more closely.
It'd be nice to see if we are, as a community, looking at this a bit more, if a product or someone using a particular service has a solution, but maybe didn't contribute it back to Patternfly, this is a good way to identify those things and share them a little bit more freely too, which makes it a little bit easier for people to get started.
Yeah, 100%. If you browse this list and see a feature request for something you already know has been implemented in your product, we would love to know that. One of the quickest ways to get something into Patternfly is when we realize multiple products are implementing it independently, and we want to make sure that we're creating consistent experiences across products. So we might be involved in that conversation for sure. All right. Awesome. Any questions about any of that? Any other feedback or thoughts? All right. All right, moving from there. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Patternfly's current testing and releasing process is like, because I don't think I've ever done that at one of these community meetings before. So basically, as it stands right now, every 3 weeks, well, when we're not heads down on a major release work, so not the past 3 weeks, but once the major release work is wrapped up, every 3 weeks, Patternfly promotes a pre-release version to latest. So what that looks like is the Patternfly team wraps up the sprint that they're working on and calls code freeze. And once all of the code is frozen and all the work has been completed for the sprint, a release candidate version is identified by the Scrum Master, which is me, and I pass off that release candidate to be tested in products. And right now, every 3 weeks, that means I hand the release candidates off to OpenShift, Cost Management, and Keycloak right now. Sometimes ODH as well. This is a list that I'm open to see growing, but usually either a Patternfly team member who has experience with the product or a product dev, not necessarily on the Patternfly team, grabs that release candidate. And what they do is, update the dependency of Patternfly to match the release candidate and try running their product. They open a pull request to kick off their CI so their full test suite can run. They check their workspace locally to make sure there are no runtime errors or any visual regressions. And essentially, if anything is discovered, any regressions, any bugs, any test failures, we investigate it as a Patternfly team to make sure that we didn't to address that issue, because we are committed to making sure we're not introducing breaking changes to products as best as we're able each release. And so if there's a test failure or if there's a runtime error or anything that the tester notices in their product, we iterate on our release candidate to address those problems and smooth them out so that they're not part of the release. So as soon as we get thumbs up that the release candidate is working in all 3 or 4 of the products that we're testing in, I begin the process of promoting that candidate to be the released version of Patternfly, the latest released version of Patternfly. And that process usually takes about a week. So usually a week after our code freeze is usually about when we're able to get the candidate version promoted. Trying to think if there's anything else I'd add to that, but I'll leave it there for now. So in general, like I mentioned before, we're definitely open to other product teams joining our regular test process. The benefits to being involved in our test process are that you're always going to be staying current with the latest promoted Patternfly release, because basically what all of our testing products do is they open up a draft PR to test that the latest release candidate can be consumed by them without any breaking changes. And then as soon as I blast out the, hey, we've officially promoted, everything has been published, they can just merge that PR, and then they have the latest version of Patternfly running in their product. And you also get a commitment from the Patternfly team that will not publish our latest release until we know that this candidate is not breaking your product. So every once in a while, we have a product come to us and say, we updated to the latest Patternfly. I noticed that a change you made 6 months ago broke us. And I'd be like, oh boy, that's a long time ago. But that would not be the case if you were one of our testing products. We would have caught that 6 months ago and fixed it immediately. So that's one of the benefits from participating in this process. But the request on our end is that the testing process runs once every 3 weeks, and it takes about a week. So it does mean that product teams who are testing with us are willing to engage on that cadence and help us get the release candidate tested in a timely manner. So I'm also imagining that over time, this process will continue to evolve. We're talking about ways to automate opening draft PRs in products with our release candidate versions so that it's not also manual, but that's still all things we're brainstorming and considering which products we might do that with. But in general, if you have any questions, want to be involved in this process, let us know. I also let you know this because I know there's a lot of always with products, updating dependencies is a process that products are wary of because of the manual lift that it could involve in terms of making changes in products to consume. Hopefully, outside of a major release of Patternfly, that's not true because we do everything that we can to try to avoid making breaking changes between major releases. And so this is part of how we try to ensure that. This is a lot of text, I'm sorry, but one other thought is that once per year now, ongoing, Patternfly is going to release a major release. We're working right now on version 5 of Patternfly. That'll be our upcoming major release. And it is a big one, partially because we haven't had a major release in like 3 years. So there's a lot of work that is going into this. I don't think all major releases going forward will be quite so large if we can do it more regularly. But currently they're planned for June of each calendar year. And with each major release, the Patternfly team plans to provide quite a few tools and guides that make migration smooth. Pardon me, one more. Sorry. Might need to take a drink of water because I'm talking so much. One second. All right. Some of the things that we're committed to providing with each major release are views of the highest impact changes that are going to be planned for each of the major release. You can view them on GitHub. And a view of the comprehensive list of slated changes. So there's especially for this major release, many changes slated for this major release. But so I have 2 views that you can view on GitHub. I can even, after I'm done talking, put links in the chat for anyone who's curious. But we have GitHub views of our highest impact changes and comprehensive list of all of our changes for people who want to browse and see what's coming. We commit to multiple rounds of alpha testing of the major release candidate done in partnership with multiple Red Hat products, as I mentioned earlier, as well as a comprehensive upgrade guide to be published with the major release. I realized I have a lot of this either from our last major release and or for this major release. I could have included as links here. Maybe I'll update this slide so that when you get the slides at the end of the meeting, you'll be able to see a lot of these resources either from our last release or our current one. We haven't written the comprehensive guide for our upcoming major release yet because the work has not quite wrapped up, but that will be published alongside the major release for sure. And code mods, something hopefully you all have heard about by now, but code mods are an aid to, for migrating to the latest major release. Basically, pieces of code you can run against your code base that will make most of the breaking changes for you, so that hopefully there'll only be a small number of actual changes you'll need to address directly in your code base. And there's a lot of code mods being written for this upcoming major release. It's been a lot of work, and they've been tested pretty extensively by on a number of code bases so far. So it's looking good for this time around as well. Another note is major releases also will include an update to the versioned prefix in all of CSS classes and variable names. So that's going to be new with this major release, where the version of Patternfly is going to be referenced in the major version of Patternfly. Is going to be referenced in all of our CSS selectors, basically to prevent style collisions when products have multiple major versions of Patternfly running simultaneously in their UI, which will be especially important for the plugin sort of ecosystem that we're using right now in Patternfly, where a lot of products might be running different versions of Patternfly compared to where they're plugged into. And so that will be a large theme for this major release, is updating to recognize this versioning prefix in all of our selectors, and ongoing that will continue to be part of every major release. But hopefully once we all learn this time around really what the impact of that is, we'll be able to even smooth that out ongoing in the future too. So yeah, that is everything I've got in terms of the Patternfly testing and releasing process. But I'll pause there in case anybody has any questions about any of the things I just rambled on about.
You had a recent push to change everything from Cypress tests to Jest tests. Am I correct?
We did recently undergo an effort to upgrade our. Let me think of what it was. It was our. What kind of test did we remove? Who knows? I forget the name.
We updated to using React testing library.
Yeah, away from
Enzyme, right?
Enzyme. Yeah, we weren't using Enzyme to run our unit tests. So we actually still do run Cypress tests on our Patternfly components. We do.
Oh, I had thought it was Jest tests you were running. RTL.
Yes, we do still run Jest tests using React testing library.
Do you shoot for a particular coverage?
No, not right now.
Okay. Have you ever thought of pulling some of these products into your tests so that instead of them running the tests, you run the tests from their data?
So in the sense that right now we are leveraging the product unit tests as they're incorporated into their CI. We do that. So the 3 products that I mentioned that we run, we test in every time, their full unit, integration, accessibility test suite are all run against our release candidate each time. But that's something that's done just for those 3 products, and they're done, like I said, manually by either a Patternfly team member or a product dev. But we don't have anything automated that hooks into anybody else's tests, if that's what you mean.
Oh, okay. So the products have the tests that are run on new Patternfly releases.
True. Yep. So Patternfly certainly has its own CI set up as well. So when any code is pushed to Patternfly, we run our full suite of React testing library, Jest tests, and integration tests built using Cypress, and accessibility tests written on Xcore whenever a change goes into Patternfly. So we do run our own test suite that we maintain as a Patternfly team. And then, yes, the full CI is also run on OpenShift, cost management, and Keycloak as part of testing the release candidate as well. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. I don't know of a way to be able to hook into other products' tests other than leveraging their CI by opening a pull request. If anyone has ideas for how to do that, we'd be open to it.
Well, what I was thinking was when we write tests, we use data from our product as the dummy data.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing I was wondering, is if Patternfly had dummy data. I think from what I've seen, it's a lot of snapshots right now, which is good. But if you change something, it's the snapshot, whole snapshot gets invalidated, and you have to just regenerate the snapshot. Well, if you're using dummy data, then you know something logically has happened,
I see.
as opposed to visually. But just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Our React, so by migrating away from Enzyme into the React testing library, we have absolutely been improving our unit test coverage of Patternfly over the course of the past year. So it's leaning a little bit less heavily on snapshot testing. I think most of our components still have at least one snapshot test for sure. But they also are testing each prop systematically. So it's hard to, we can't quantify a coverage number, I guess, per se, because that's not something we track so intentionally. But as we've been improving our unit tests, I would personally speak very confidently about the coverage of any of the unit tests that have been updated so far. And that epic, maybe Austin, maybe you could even identify. Oh, there we go. He already did. The epic that tracks the progress we've made on our unit testing is pretty far along. So you can take a peek at the link that Austin just included as well.
You might actually be interested in a Monaco mock I did recently, because there doesn't seem to be any other way of testing a Monaco editor other than with snapshots, but
Yeah.
other than to, so I could probably send that to you.
Yes, I think we'd love that. Thank you. All right. Anything else? All right. So with that, then, I think I'll hand over screen sharing to Jesse to talk about our extension of the month.
Sounds good. Let me steal it from you. So this month, we're going to be talking about Quickstarts. I have a feeling that most of the people here have probably already seen Quickstarts or know about Quickstarts. So I'll keep this pretty brief and just go over where you can find more information and things like that. I have all the links in the slide if you're interested. And also in at least the two main ones are in the agenda. But with our documentation, it's pretty in-depth at this point. And so I think it has a lot of information if you're interested in adding Quickstarts to your product. For anyone who doesn't know, Quickstarts is like a step-by-step instructions and that you can have tasks inside of the sidebar or the side panel. And this basically helps with all the different complicated tasks that you might have in your product. It can help with getting started with the product, understanding the different things that you might want to do in the product. A lot of our products can be kind of complicated, so Quickstarts can be very, very helpful in getting a user on board of understanding what they can do. So this is an idea of what it might look like, and this whole page explains all about the general aspects of Quickstarts. It talks about the format, it talks about the catalog that's often used with this. You can also do in-app documentation. So if you want to guide your user along, if you have something on your UI that you want to pull them and give them more information specifically in context, you can also do that. And here's an example that we have for that. We have different formatting examples. The actual development examples themselves are here. So as you can see, we have a pretty basic example of a quick start, and it gives you how to do that. Also, the in-app documentation, pretty simple. Pulling that up as if you were going to get more information in the UI. And also design guidelines. So if you want more information of exactly what is in a quick start, what are the components, how is it expected to be used, how should you think through the catalog, all kinds of things like that, or even content help, which can be really helpful, especially as you're writing a quick start. I think it can be confusing at times to know how to go about it. And so I think these guidelines help figure out exactly what you should be doing when you're writing your quick start. We also have a demo app that I'd like to share here. I think some of you guys have probably already seen this, but this has all working together. So if you want an idea of how you could have a catalog of different quick starts and how that would all work together, we have our little demo app here. So you can kind of go through, get an idea of what that quick start would be like, what it'd be like to have an external resource linked off, etc. And there's different types we have in terms of whether it's localized, whether we use props, context, or the in-app documentation aspect as well. we have that working here. And if you are interested in seeing this demo app, we link it in the About page. So when it talks about a full demo application here, you can go ahead and look through the different demo app, the demo code, etc. We eventually plan on adding this to org, but right now it's just been existing on its own. So future plans for that. But I wanted to give a quick intro to Quickstarts and explain the different things we have available if you're interested in adding it, and also showing off our demo app very briefly. I think that's pretty much it, unless anyone has questions. Or if anyone wants to add anything. Okay, I guess back to you, Nicole.
All right. That is everything on the agenda today. So we have time for any questions or topics that anyone wants to cover while we're here. So I'll give us a moment. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss?
It sounded like the topology moved to its own repo recently. Is that in 5.0 or 4.x?
So topology did move into its own repo. A handful of our extensions moved out of the Patternfly React Mono repo and were brought into their own separate repos just for ease of maintenance in the long term. So as of right now, any new releases of topology will be for 4.0 and 5.0 will be from its new repo.
Oh, okay, so 5.x and or 4.x and 5.x.
Yep, ongoing. So the older, so yeah, you can, ongoing. I'm just about actually to release a newest version of topology 4x, hopefully this week, from the new repo.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question about with the move to doing major releases every June. And I think this was probably touched on before, but I didn't see it in the presentation. If there was some documentation on how much the previous releases will be maintained in terms of bug fixes or CVEs, things like that.
Yeah, as it stands, the plan is to fully support the current major release and one prior. So
Okay.
when 5 goes live, we'll still be making, fixes for security problems or like critical bugs and stuff as a keeping basically V4 in maintenance ongoing. But new features will be added to V5 once it's released going forward. But yeah, we'll be maintaining V4 until V6 is live, I guess.
Right. Okay, yeah. Great. Thank you.
Maybe we'll give them cooler names by then instead of referencing numbers. All right, anything else? I will be sending out the recording plus the slides in PDF form, so you can access all the links shortly after this meeting. But if you're not on the Patternfly mailing list, the link is in the slides right here. I can even, I think, let's see. Oh no. I'll include the link to the slides again one more time in the chat for anyone who wants to view these. So you can see the link to joining the Patternfly mailing list. You could also import the Patternfly community calendar into your own Google Calendar, so you can see if community meeting dates change or anything like that, and have access to the Google Meet links, things like that. And my contact information is also there. We do have office hours tomorrow, development office hours, for anyone who has any questions or frustrations they want to let the Patternfly team know about while implementing Patternfly or anything like that. So those are tomorrow. Welcome any of you to join us. Bring your questions and topics. That's it. So thanks everyone for coming to our community meeting for April, and I'll see you all next month.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Jesse.